Hi there, I'm Alex from the Southern Ukulele Store, and I felt compelled to make this video today because times change so quickly. I made this video 2-3 years ago, and if I went back and looked at it now, quite a lot of the advice that I would have given that would have been relevant at the time feels slightly dated now. Perhaps some of those models have gone up in price, perhaps the spec on those models have changed, or perhaps the opinion on those models entirely has changed, which can happen from time to time because manufacturing processes, they differ over time. And maybe the quality control on certain brands that we stocked in 2018 doesn't reflect what you would get if you were to buy one in 2021. And this has been playing on my mind a lot recently, as well as Google searches. When you Google beginner's ukulele or cheap ukulele, best cheap ukulele, best ukulele under £200, what ukulele should I buy? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm trying to say. When you do those Google searches that lead you down the path that will eventually, hopefully, make you a player for life, what you want is something that's unbiased as much as it can be, and something that doesn't just try and tell you that one manufacturer is God. And that sometimes happens. I don't want to name any names because I don't want to upset anybody, but if you were to look deeper at these lists, firstly, sometimes they're written so long ago that the information given is no longer relevant. Sometimes they are just written from the perspective of a PR company working for a distributor who has several brands, and they're going, okay, well, X, Y, and Z are the best ukuleles because that's what we sell. And I'm not going to waffle on forever, but hopefully you start to see my point. And I think the beauty of this channel and the benefit of channels like this or completely unbiased review channels like Gotta Ukulele is that we're trying to put the best instrument we can in your hands. There's absolutely no agenda here other than to make you buy an instrument that you're not going to return because you don't like it. We want you to go away happy, we want you to be enthusiastic, and we want you to come back for more. And that's why I have compiled a list of concert ukuleles under £200 that really, if you're a beginner in 2021, these are the ukuleles that I believe that you should be looking at. And we've got some fantastic new models here that have only been around for a couple of months, a couple of weeks. We've got models here that have been around for nearly a decade. So we're going to crack on right now. Why 12? Well, to be honest with you, I couldn't decide between 10 and 15. Ideally, I would have done a list of 15, but 3 of the options I wanted to show you are out of stock and will be for the foreseeable future. Equally, I couldn't narrow it down to 10. Anyway, we're going to start with a KA-SSEM-C. Let's talk about that now. Okay, first up today we have the KA-SSEM-C. Now for me, if you have £100 to spend on your first ukulele, the KA-SSEM-C or its tenor equivalent, the KTI-90, are far and away my personal favourite choices. They look good, they sound good, they're well made, and they really defy what you should be getting for this price. The KTI-90 is laminate maple on the top, back and sides. It has a side sound port, which is a benefit, I think, for instruments at this price, because quite often you hear more of the natural tone of the instrument as you play it than the person in front of you, which as a beginner, when you're developing technique and nuance to how you play, that kind of thing is essential. With open back tuners and a 35mm nut width, which is the most common concert ukulele nut width. Some people worry that it might be too slender, but definitely give one a try, because there is a reason that 90% of the ukuleles out there at this kind of price will have that nut width. The strings it comes with out of the box is clear fluorocarbon strings, which make for a kind of tighter, punchier sound, which is never a bad thing, especially when you're learning to strum. The cleaner the sound of the note, the better. This also comes in a really nice padded gig bag that if you were to buy separately would probably set you back around 20, maybe even £25. So the KTI-90, a fantastic place to start. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, so sometimes when you get to that £100 price point, the first question you ask with anything is, well, what would happen if I spent £10, £15 more? And there is a real anomaly out there that you should definitely consider spending that extra £10, £15 on. It's another Kai, it's the Kai KCI100M. The KCI100M is mahogany. It's actually a solid mahogany top with laminate mahogany back and sides, with many of the same features as the KCI90 that we've just looked at before. You have the composite wood fingerboard and bridge with a 35mm nut width, closed back tuners. The solid top versus a laminate, that's something that we probably need to explain if you're an absolute beginner. A laminate material is when you have several pieces of wood sandwiched together to make a wood. This will kind of lack the refined tone of a solid piece of wood, and to have a solid top is a benefit because these tops, as they continue to dry out over time, they will age, they will sound nicer more often than not. And although I wouldn't necessarily say a solid top is a must at this price, it's definitely a nice added bonus for the extra £10. Some people will prefer the natural darker stain of the mahogany as well, which gives it more of a traditional look. One thing I didn't mention before about the KCI90 that comes on this and the 100M is a strap button. So there's no extra expenses needed out of the box, you just tune it up and play it. Anyway, the KCI 100M, definitely worth your time, just like the KCI90, great place to start. So let's give this a play and see what you think. Okay, next up today we have a new model from AnueNue. AnueNue are a brand that if you're an absolute beginner you're going to really want to get to know, because regardless of your budget, AnueNue will have something that will kind of get your taste buds going, something that will look quirky and feel great and sound good too. This particular model is the entry level AnueNue. It's a U2. You have a laminate mahogany body with a satin finish, with a rosewood fingerboard and bridge and open back tuners. So for the £20–30 difference between this ukulele and the Kai KCI 100M, what you're getting is a slightly wider nut width, 36mm. The rosewood fingerboard and bridge is also something that would be considered a bonus at this price nowadays. Back in the day, you know, when I were a boy, everything had a rosewood fingerboard and bridge, but nowadays it's becoming fewer and far between, and the AnueNues are one of the minority ukuleles to feature this kind of thing. You have a classic tie-on bridge, and one thing you might not notice in isolation here, but this ukulele has slightly larger body proportions. It's slightly curvier and bigger than your average concert. Size-wise, it's just a touch, probably 5% bigger than a normal concert. And it also comes with a nice padded gig bag as well. So I'm going to give the AnueNue U2 a play and see what you think. Okay, next up today we're going to look at a ukulele brand that if you're an absolute beginner or new to the instrument, you probably will have heard of. This is a Kala. Kala ukuleles have probably reached that next level of notoriety within the ukulele world. They were around right as the ukulele boom happened 10, 12 years ago, and they've always introduced new models that have kept people interested and really grown exponentially. They have factories in China and Indonesia, and they make custom shop instruments in the US. Really, they cover all prices from £30 all the way up to several £1,000s. But it's very, very easy to get lost in the mix because Kala produce so many affordable instruments. Which ones are the best ones to look at? And my personal opinion on this has changed over the years. Sure, if you're going into your local music shop, you might find a Kala KA-C, a KA-CG, a CEM, models that are just there now in ukulele folklore and very popular. But if you have a budget of £200, or if you just really want to invest in getting the best instrument you can for the money for yourself, I think this is the best Kala ukulele as of 2021 at this price point. This is the KA-SSEM-C. The SSEM-C is one of the only Kalas under £150 to have a solid top. It has a solid spruce top. The whole thing is a satin finish with exotic mahogany laminate back and sides, which have been left a very, very light natural stain. In fact, it could be completely unstained, or it could be a very, very light varnish. I'm not 100% sure of the technicals there, but it looks great. It almost has a maple look to it. You have a striped ebony fingerboard and bridge, which is something you really don't see at this price. There's only one other brand I can think of today where I'm going to be able to tell you they have an ebony fingerboard, and that's something that I consider a feature of instruments at this price. You have front and back plastic binding with a really nice rosette, which has a kind of rope herringbone-esque feel to it, and it's big so you can see it, and it looks cool, but it's not too quirky or extravagant. It's just right. You have the exotic mahogany faceplate on the headstock with open back tuners, which look to be Grover tuners made for Kala, with black buttons. You have a synthetic bone and nut, which has a 35mm nut width, and it's dyed black on current models, which looks very, very cool. Now, this is the first ukulele I'll feature today that doesn't come with a gig bag, but I think actually price-wise this ukulele is underpriced. It would not surprise me if this ukulele was £60, £70 more than the price suggests. And it's a worthy contender for your attention if you're coming into the ukulele world in 2021. So let's give the KA-SSEM-C a play and see what you think. Okay, on now to probably the most exciting new launch of 2021. This is the AnueNue UC10. I'm holding the blue Ohana finish, but this ukulele comes in 5 different flavours, quirky colours with a pastel top, the satin finish, and depending on the model you choose, you have a mixture of maple or rosewood fingerboards, each with a maple bridge, which is very, very quirky, very light dyed. The instrument also has a scratch plate, a pick guard, so that when you're strumming you don't easily scratch the top. And this pick guard material actually matches the gig bag that the instrument comes with. Well under £200 for just a fantastic and cool, quirky ukulele to look at. Real wood bindings as well, which is a feature at this price. You have maple bindings on the front and back with laminate mahogany back and sides. And I don't know if I mentioned it already, but you have these open back AnueNue tuners with a 36mm nut width and the maple faceplate. It's a real bone nut and saddle on this model, and yeah, for me, I think that this is exactly what the ukulele needs in 2021. You're not going to see another instrument like this. It's exciting, it's well made, it plays well, and yeah, if after 12, 13 years of selling these things, I can get excited when something at this price comes in and go, yeah, do you know what, I think I might get one of these. And that's exactly what's happened with the UC10s. I particularly recommend the red finish, which is just this lovely faded Fiesta red style finish. But for now, I'm going to give the blue Ohana UC10 a play and see what you think. Okay, next up today we have one of the most enduring and endearing ukuleles for under £200. This is the Snail SUC-M1. For us here at SUS, the SUC-M1 was the first ukulele to really come along and defy expectations about what you can get at this price. Before this was introduced in 2018, you had lots and lots of ukuleles from brands like Kala, Lanakai, Cordoba, lots of instruments that were okay. The finish wasn't necessarily that good. They were all right, and you would maybe get a good one, but you would also maybe get two or three that felt quite average. And what happened with the Snail SUC-M1 is that for the first time you had a laminate ukulele under £200 where every single one just performed and sizzled and sounded fantastic. And I stand by that 3 years later. This ukulele has a laminate mahogany top, back and sides, with a polished high gloss finish, so a really nice high gloss finish, ebony fingerboard and bridge, which, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is quite a feature at this price. If you're wondering why an ebony fingerboard is lovely, then if you think about how these things respond to your fingers, if you have a softer wood like maple, when you press down on it, quite a lot of the frequencies get absorbed, so you get a softer sound. If you move up to other woods like walnut, oven coal, rosewood, the same kind of thing happens. A lot of the frequencies get absorbed as your fingers make contact with the string and the fingerboard itself. And then when you get to these really hard woods like ebony, what happens is you get a slightly punchier, more attack heavy sound from the fingerboard. And if you're a finger picker, you get something crisper and cleaner. And for me, as a player, it's quite often been the secret to how I play certain songs. If I try and play them on instruments with different fingerboard woods, they just don't sound as good. Anyway, lesson over. So you have a string through bridge on the Snails, which has divided opinion over the years because it looks quite fussy and complicated, but it's not. To restring it, you would just pop the string through the hole there, get it out the sound hole, tie a knot in it, and then pull it back and tighten it up, and Bob's your uncle, as they say. You have Snail closed back tuners, and as of 2021 these models are coming with a new improved grey gig bag, because that's another thing about Snail. They are constantly looking at what other people are doing, and as other brands started to introduce good quality gig bags, they upped their game. The SUC-M1 is well under £200 and a great uke worthy of your attention. So let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, next up today we're going to take a first look at Flight. Much like Kala, if you've heard of ukuleles and you've heard about them on social media or from Google searches, Flight are a brand that often come up, and with good reason, because they are growing massively and introduce new models every year that get people excited. Just last year, Flight launched 4 brand new products that have been just massive hot ticket items that we've been unable to keep in stock. But their wider catalogue is also a fantastic example of different ranges and diversity. And although we don't tend to stock the ABS material ukes that they produce under £100, between £100 and £200, they do have several exciting options. The first of which is the AnueNue C2. This is all solid mahogany and comes in a padded gig bag for well under £200. It has a satin finish and a very, very dark stain to give it that traditional early 20th century ukulele vibe about it. If you're somebody getting into the ukulele because you've heard somebody do some jazz or something soulful or some traditional music, then this could be a good choice for you. It has an aged binding on the front and back, so slightly yellowed maple binding on the front and back, with a traditional Martin style rosette. You have a 35mm nut width with a black walnut fingerboard and bridge. This is one of the only ukuleles, in fact the only ukulele we're going to look at today with friction tuners, which are the traditional style ukulele tuner. Some people see this and they get scared, but do not be afraid, my friends. The friction tuner has a screw on the back, and my advice to you is to give one of these a try, because friction tuners are lightweight, which makes for more sustain and a slightly more bouncy sound. And the maintenance they need is about every 2 or 3 months. You take your screwdriver and you pinch the tuning peg and you give it a tighten. And these things can be more accurate than a geared tuner because there is no margin for error. With a geared tuner, it's turning constantly, so there's going to be parts in the turning circle where it can be a bit fiddly. But with a friction tuner, you can just go at will. The AnueNue C2 comes in a padded gig bag, as I think I mentioned earlier in the video, and is a fantastic choice for somebody out there looking for something traditional on a budget. So let's give the AnueNue C2 a play and see what you think. Next up today we have another new model from AnueNue. This is something that's been getting people excited on social media in recent months. It's the AnueNue C3. The C3 is a solid mahogany top with laminate mahogany back and sides, a satin finish with an abalone rosette around the sound hole, an Indian rosewood fingerboard and bridge, so a slightly mellower, warmer sounding fingerboard and bridge, 36mm nut, bone nut and saddle, with open back AnueNue tuners, and it comes in one of the coolest, quirkiest gig bags that you'll ever see. It looks like a picnic basket when you unfold it. Really lovely gig bag and something to remember at this price. I really love the dimensions of this ukulele. AnueNue concerts have a slightly rounder, fuller body. I mentioned it earlier on with the C2 and the UC10. And it continues here, so you get a bigger tenor style body but on a concert size, so a scaled down version of a tenor. It makes for a deeper, slightly darker sound, and this ukulele would also be a fantastic choice for somebody looking to play some jazz or some soul, or somebody looking to play a concert but sing and accompany themselves and they don't want a thin, brittle sound. Yeah, I love this ukulele. I can't wait to recommend it to more people. This is actually our first delivery of these, and I really struggled to think of a time when it's been better to be learning a musical instrument, because everything available seemingly at the moment between £100 and £300 has just substantially improved in quality in the last 2-3 years. Let's give the C3 a play and see what you think. Okay, next up we have a very popular model from Kai. This is the Kai KCI-700. This ukulele takes you into another realm of sound and style now. So it has a solid cedar top. Cedar is a warm, loud, percussive, punchy wood, very different to a traditional style ukulele. When you pair it with the gloss finish, what you get is something that's almost flamenco-y. You know, it's like a classical guitar in sound and feel. This one has laminate Bacote back and sides, which looks lovely all the way around, like someone stirring hot chocolate. Really lovely look. And you have red Paduke binding across the top and the back to bind everything together. They also have a strap button, which is something I always forget to mention. On the fingerboard, that Paduke binding continues all the way up. I'll try and do a close-up for you guys. And you have the side sound port, as you did with the KCI 90 and 100M earlier on. So you, the player, benefits the most from the sound the instrument produces, but it still looks conventional, and people in front of you will still get some lovely, sweet ukulele sounds. You have a 35mm nut width with a technical wood fingerboard and bridge, and you have a very, very well hidden red Padauk flower inlay just there on the fingerboard. And then finally you have the closed back tuners. The KCI-700s also come in a really nice padded gig bag. Once again, the Kai gig bags are a lovely touch as a freebie, but standalone they could easily sell for £20–25. The KCI-700 is a real gem under £200, especially if you're somebody that is learning the ukulele because you've struggled with guitar, or because you like the more kind of guitar sound but in a smaller package. Let's give the KCI-700 a play and see what you think. As I move through this video, I actually find it harder and harder to pick a favourite. There are so many ukuleles here that have their own benefits and their own sounds that really deserve to be explored further. But if we're going back to the previous video I made, at the time this was my favourite ukulele, and it's definitely still in this list. It's definitely somewhere in this top 5, top 6 of this list, and one that I really recommend to people. If I had students in 2021, this is one I would constantly recommend. It's the Ohana CK70R. The top is solid spruce, and the back is laminate rosewood, so really dark, almost figureless rosewood. You can see aerated parts of the wood grain, but it's a satin finish with a really dark texture to it. You have a rosewood fingerboard and bridge with a mahogany neck and a slotted headstock. You have open back tuners on the headstock there, traditional looking open back tuners. It's not focusing. With cream buttons, and the cream theme goes all the way down, so you get cream front and back binding to tie it all together as well, and an abalone rosette. This particular ukulele has a 35mm nut width with a bone nut and saddle. It's one of the few ukuleles in this list that does not come with a bag, but fits in any of the concert bags we sell and is just a great choice. If you want something, spruce tops have a kind of guitar sound to them too, much like cedar, but when you pair it with a satin finish, you get a very honest sounding ukulele. It's quite sweet really, which does defy the wood combination, and I've never really seen a bad one of these, so that's the biggest testament to the CK70R. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Okay, next up today we have a Kanalea Islander. Kanalea are one of the premier Hawaiian K brands, Hawaiian manufactured ukuleles with a history going back 25 years. Fantastic company to deal with, and in 2011-2012 they introduced the Islander series, which take the spec of the Kanaleas, the way they build their instruments, and moved the process to a Chinese factory to make them more affordable. They make probably a dozen different combinations of wood ukuleles under £300–400, laminates, solids, and I recommend them all. But the one that I have available to show you here today is the one that's the most unique, which is the MOC4. This is a laminate mango concert, and the reason I'm showing this to you is because if you have big hands but you want a concert size, or if you're somebody that just likes a slightly wider string spacing, the Islander is the only ukulele on the list today I'm going to show you with a 38mm nut width. That extra 3mm translates to the string spacing as about a mil extra space per string, and the whole thing feels slightly chunkier and bigger than the other concerts we're going to look at today. It has a pin bridge, so a guitar style pin bridge with an oven coil fingerboard and bridge, and the pin bridge not only looks cool, but it's actually there to increase sustain. So by clamping the string down to the top, you get a more true, slightly darker resonant note, and that's true on all Islanders and Canaleas. You have open back tuners with cream buttons, and the body has black binding on the front and back with a black rosette. I really dig the Islanders. Every now and again you get a player that's just desperate to learn the ukulele but struggling with a Kala or an Ohana or something that's a bit more kind of standard proportions, and this is a fantastic option for those people. Check out any of the Islander ukuleles for similar results, but for now let's give the MOC4 a play and see what you think. Final ukulele of the day actually just creeps over the £200 price point. This ukulele is £205, so I'm very sorry to mislead you. When I was putting the ukuleles aside for this video, I had in my head that it was £5 less than it is, but please do not discount it, because this ukulele is at the end of the list for a reason. This is the Flight Diana CE. The Diana CE actually reminds me at first glance of that KA-SSEM-C we looked at before, but for the £15 difference in price you get a few extra features. You have a solid cedar top with laminate walnut back and sides, which has been lightly stained, so it has a very unique look to it. You still have the Padauk binding on the top and the back, and you have a technical wood fingerboard and bridge, so purple wood they call it. You have a 35mm nut width with a slotted headstock, which is one of those features you do pay a few pounds extra for, and gold hardware, so slightly more deluxe looking open back tuners. The body has a gloss finish, but the neck is satin, so it feels slightly lived in and played in, and this ukulele does come with a gig bag. The other feature that I haven't mentioned yet, and that you can't see on first glance, is the pickup. This ukulele, if you look inside the sound hole, has a volume and tone control. And at the bottom here you have a jack socket, so you can plug this ukulele into an amplifier, roll your volume and tone up and down, and you can play on stage. So for the difference in price between the Diana CE and the KCI700, I hope that you'll agree you get quite a bit more for your money. If you're after an electro ukulele, or you want a ukulele that just feels like it's the next step up from your average beginner's ukulele, then it's unfair to say that this is the uke for you, because there are so many good options in the list, but this is definitely one to consider. I'm going to give the Diana CE a play and see what you think. Okay, so we've looked at 12 concert ukuleles, and you know, for all of the videos I've made here at SUS the last 3-4 years, this ukulele I think is the one with the smallest margins of difference between each instrument. Every ukulele here is worth the money. Every ukulele here really is a testament to modern manufacturing, that we can produce instruments this good at this price. And I really feel like if there's just 5 or 10 people out there that watch this video and make an informed purchase off the back of it, then it was definitely worth me getting up super early in the morning to come in here without breakfast to make it for you. I'd love to know which was your favourite in the comments section. If you have any of these ukuleles, now is your chance to share with the class your experiences with them. And if you have any questions for me, then you can contact me in store at alex@ukulele.co.uk, or you can call one of the team, myself included, on 01202 430 820. I'd be really grateful if you check out my Ukes with Alex channel as well. I'll leave a link in the description of the video. And I'll be back very, very soon to do the same kind of video as we've done today, but with tenors. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you soon.